Hi, my name's Reiko, and I'm one of the AAC SLPs at the North Vancouver School District. And we are in the middle of a four-part series on emergent literacy. And so today's part is about phonological awareness. What we want to do is develop a comprehensive literacy program for each of our students. And a comprehensive literacy program includes lots and lots of parts. We had a session on whole word learning last time, and this time we will be talking about phonological awareness. What is phonological awareness? You're going to see PA written through the slides from here on, and when you see PA, it means phonological awareness. So phonological awareness is the skill of taking all of the language that's around us and breaking them into smaller and smaller parts. We have the concept that sentences have words, words have syllables, syllables have sounds, and we're going to go all the way down to the very tiniest parts, which are called phonemes, which is the individual sounds that words are made up of. Phonological awareness is really, really important for a comprehensive literacy program, which is really important for non-speaking students as well as all other students that are learning to read. As you can see from this umbrella, phonological awareness includes a whole variety of skills. We'll go into those one by one in this video. Phonological awareness and phonics. What's the difference? Phonological awareness is taking, like I said, the language that's in our auditory environment and breaking those down. It does not involve print, and instruction focuses on the sounds and syllables and things that we hear. And those are the things that we are manipulating in order to learn about phonological awareness. For example, cat and kite start with the same sound, k. Now, you and I, because we're literate adults, I'm assuming, know that cat starts with the letter C, kite starts with the letter K, and in phonics, those two words wouldn't be put together because they don't start with the same letter, right? But in phonological awareness, they do start with the same sound, so we are going to put them together. Now, phonics, what's the difference there? So phonics is more of a visual task. Phonics involves print. It involves looking at written language, and we focus on letters and their corresponding sounds. We are looking at the cat here, and we might pair it this time with car because they both start with a hard k, which is spelled with a C. So why do we teach phonological awareness? We teach phonological awareness because it is really a foundational skill for literacy and an essential part of a comprehensive literacy program. It takes the communication, the language that we hear around us, and teaches students that there's words within these sentences and there's sounds within those words. And when you think about it, for some AAC users, and especially if somebody is a Gestalt language processor, they might not even understand that there's words within sentences, right? That's kind of the first skill that we learn. And then we also need to teach phonics. Again, phonics is a foundational skill in literacy, specifically in a comprehensive literacy program. We need to understand how written language works, how letters can form words and words can form sentences, which is essential in things like word construction, spelling, and decoding. In communication, especially for AAC users, you can't be a truly independent communicator until you have the ability to spell and put your own words into your own AAC system. What researchers have found is that both phonological awareness and phonics are essential parts to a reading and writing program. Why is that? We don't know, but without them, what researchers have found is that reading and writing kind of stall. So developing both phonological awareness and phonics can support students to become more independent in both their reading and their communication. So let's go back to what are the different parts of phonological awareness. You saw this umbrella before. What we're going to do now is go deeper into what some of those activities might look like. So the first skill I'm going to talk about is rhyming. Snake and cake both sound the same at the ends of their words, and that's why they rhyme. We also have syllables. So cat has one syllable. We can clap this out actually. Garbage has two syllables. and elephant has 3 syllables. We're also going to talk about onset and rhyme. The onset of the word is the stuff that comes before the vowel. So in the case of fish, it's the f sound. Now the rhyme, R-I-M-E, is the vowel and everything after it, so ish. You'll notice that the word fish here isn't spelled with regular letters. That's the phonetic alphabet, and the lines there indicate that it's the phonetic alphabet. So we're not looking at written letters, we're thinking about sounds. And anytime you see anything written like within those slanted lines, it means that we're just thinking about the sounds and not the written words. So what's the difference between a rhyme, R-H-Y-M-E, and a rhyme, R-I-M-E? So here are 2 words, hair and bear. They rhyme, right? So again, we have those lines to tell us in some fancy symbols, but what I want you to notice here is that the air in both hair and bear are the same, and that's why we know they rhyme. The rhyme, R-I-M-E, refers to the part that is the vowel and everything after it. So the H is the onset and the rhyme is the air part. The rhyme rhymes. So, I was trying to think about how to explain it, and this is the best description I can come up with, that a rhyme, for something to rhyme is like an action. It either rhymes or it doesn't, right? Now, R-I-M-E, rhyme, is a part of the word. This is going to come up again when we talk about phonics, but as it relates to phonological awareness, that's what I want you to know. Now, phonemic awareness is the big sort of target when we're working on phonological awareness. We want students to get to those little tiny units called phonemes. We do need to work through a progression from kind of like that sentence level all the way down to phonemes. And we're going to do that using a number of different tasks. This is sort of a diagram of different complexity in phonological awareness tasks. We have rhyming and alliteration. So rhyming, we talked about, hair and bear rhyme. Alliteration is, when all the words start with the same letters. The next step is sentence segmentation. As AAC users who are observing modeling throughout their day, we are actually seeing sentences broken up into words throughout the day. Another way we can do this is by pointing to words as somebody else reads them, but that is one of the skills in there. We have syllables, both segmenting and blending, onset and rhyme, blending and segmenting. And then we have phonemic awareness. That includes blending sounds into words, segmenting words into sounds, and deleting and manipulating sounds in spoken words to create new and different words. We'll go through some of this here. So here are some activities. Before I get into this, I do want to mention that a lot of our learners that we're talking about today are older than what the commercially available products are for. So a lot of the commercially available stuff is for young, sort of pre-K, K1, maybe even 2 sort of grade level. And so they tend to have, pictures like this little guy on the left here with, rosy cheeks, and they're running and they look quite young. We should be really respectful of our learners and make sure that we're using illustrations and photos that are much more age appropriate. We have a variety of different graphic tools available to us now. And so when we are able to produce some materials for students, I always like to make sure that I'm producing them with more age respectful materials. Now, as you go through this video, what I've done is I've laid it out by level. So early emergent, later emergent, transitional, beginning conventional, and later conventional. Your LST should be able to direct you to which section of the video you should start with, but it doesn't hurt to start with the early emergent and move up either faster if you feel like those skills are achieved or already there, or to slow it down and work through things with a more deliberate pace. Either one is fine. You can go through them by skill, such as word level or onset rhyme level or syllable level. You can also go through them by tasks such as rhyming. Now, in order to go through them by skill or by task, what you're going to notice below the video is that I've put in timestamps, and I'll make sure that my timestamps are really, really explicit so that if you wanted to go through and just look at all the rhyming stuff, you could totally do that. If you want to go through and look at all the syllable level stuff, you can totally do that. So hopefully, that's not too confusing, and let me know if it is, and I'll try to re-edit and figure something else out. We're going to start with some early emergent skills. At this level, the focus is on exposure to different kinds of phonological awareness. You may have gone through an assessment and found that there was not a lot of knowledge in this area. You may also have not been able to assess and you just kind of want to get started. It's okay to just start here and move forward as you see skills. Okay, so the first part we want to talk about is rhythm. I don't know if you haven't done elementary music education in a while, you might not know this, but um, apparently clapping fruit is a thing, and you can actually go online and look for music fruit and videos, and you will find a whole bunch of them. So that gives you a little bit of variety in terms of the activities that you can choose. I'll also upload this book to our teams. So it's Fruit Rhythms. You'll notice that we have no written words here. You can do this with the repetition or not, just individual fruit, but we have pear. So at this point, it's just exposure. The student may or may not participate here. I don't even know, sometimes students don't know how to clap. So we might need to go back and listen to music together and clap together. You might also use some percussion instruments. You'll notice that on the cover of this book, actually, it's AI generated, so it's a little bit funny, but there's some percussion instruments there as well. So that's just exposure to rhythm. We also want to start exposing to rhyme. I just have a book that I made here. There's tons and tons of rhyming songs and books out there, so feel free to pick one of those, or to be inspired by one and to create your own book using more age-respectful sort of images. But this is a rhyming book. I've used just some AI-generated photorealistic sort of images in here. So like I said, at this point, we're just going for exposure, right? So goat in a boat. And we have a goat in a boat here. So some sort of instructional phrases that we can support are what rhymes with goat? Or find the rhyme. We can also take this off and say, match the rhyme. So goat in a boat. These Velcro bits and stuff will come into play a little bit later as well. Another skill is exposure to segmenting words into syllables. Now, you can go one of two ways here, right? I have a few things here that I think are good for your sort of segmenting and blending toolkits. I have some 2-syllable words here, like carrot, and I have some 3-syllable words here, like potato. Now, I also know that I have a student who's particularly into Mario, so I went and looked up some Mario characters and found conveniently that we have some 1-syllable characters like Boo. We have some 2-syllable characters like Bowser. And we have some 3-syllable characters like Luigi. You could be reading a book together, you could be playing a game together, you could be watching a video together and talking about the characters and clapping out their names. So Boo, Bowser, Luigi. And again, at the early emergent stage, we're really just going for exposure of these skills and not necessarily expecting or demanding that the student do anything at this time. So the next skill we're going to talk about is alliteration. Alliteration is when all the words start with the same letter. So I made a little alliteration book, which again, I will upload to Teams, but you can also just print this out. This doesn't have to be turned into a book. You can just, actually, I think that would be a fun sort of like sorting game. So on this page here, we have bubbles and we have B words going into bubbles. So we might read this saying, the bed is in a bubble. The bus is in a bubble. It's also Velcro, so you can take them off and talk about them as you put them on again. The student can play with them and put them on and off. It could be you could just be reading the words. Again, the expectation for an early emergent learner is just exposure at this point. So we have B words in bubbles. We have L words on leaves. So legs on a leaf, light on a leaf. And then we have S words in stars. Sock in a star, soup in a star. So hopefully these are things that you can have some fun with. Next, we're going to talk about the later emergent phase of literacy. So at this point in rhythm, what we're expecting is for the student to imitate the rhyme. So when I say imitate, that means that I will produce it and they will follow along. So we could start with the fruit book again. And this time, when I say, Rico's turn, pear, and then I might say, your turn, and have the student clap. They might just naturally clap without you needing to tell them that's their turn. That's not like a required part of this. As we get further into the book, we have some more complex rhythm. This is apple, apple. And then the student would imitate. What imitation is not is me saying, apple, you do it, right? This is me clapping and then the student clapping in response, copying me. The next skill we're going to talk about is rhyme. So at this point in the rhyming, what I would expect is for the student to participate in this. You might start with just goat on a boat, and they add that, and then we can look and see the goat on a boat. We can, the next page is rat in a hat, and then we have a picture of a rat in a hat. Now, at this stage, what I would expect is that if I said goat on a boat or hat, what rhymes with goat? That the student would be able to say boat. Now, if you go back to our airless learning that we talked about in whole word learning, some students might have a hard point at this point, right? So you might need to stick around that like go on a boat a little bit longer before you give the choice. But before we move on to the next stage, I would want them to be able to select which of these words go here. Now, there is a chance that the student enjoys these pictures and they start to memorize what words go here, right? They know that the goat in a boat picture is coming up. That doesn't necessarily mean that that they understand what rhyming is. So at this point, you might want to also include other rhyming activities to make sure that they are truly understanding what rhyming is. You might do a similar format, but different vocabulary. You could do a completely different activity, but continue to probe and continue to work and continue to gather materials. If at some point you're like, you know what, I think the student just has this book memorized, that's okay. I would actually at that point just put this in the independent reading folder and they can continue to play with the book and look at the book and read the book and do all those things. It's not garbage, just it's now a break book though, right? Because they're no longer learning from this book. Segmenting words into syllables. So at this point, this is when I would bring back my 2-syllable words. So we have some 2-syllable words here like carrot and present. And I'm also going to mix in, because I know that my student likes Mario, I'm going to mix in Yoshi and Bowser. So this is his deck of segmenting words into syllables. What we're going to do, similar to the rhythm, is just segment, right? And clap words out. So Bowser, present. Now, remember how I said that in terms of rhythm, we want the student to be able to imitate the rhythm. I would say that we would start there with these and work our way up to me introducing a brand new word. And you might want to hold a couple of these back even. So say this is the one that I was holding back, and I said, okay, how about pizza? Can you clap pizza? So that is segmenting. So now we come to alliteration. So we're going to go back to our alliteration book. This book will give you a place to start. I've given you some 3 phonemes that are really, really far apart. So we have b, o, s. Those are very, very far apart. You know, discriminating between b and p might be a little bit more challenging. So at this point, this is just a starting place. But what I might do is take a couple. Okay, so we have the bear is in a bubble. Those start with the b sound. The bed is in a bubble. B, b. Those are b sounds. The bus is in a bubble. B, b. What goes in this bubble? Is it lips or box? Which one goes in the bubble? Lips or box? And if you're finding that they are doing this accurately over the course of several days, you can add more phonemes. You can add phonemes that are closer together and do all of that. And you can also introduce new phonemes and see if we can do any matching. If you're finding that they go to the wrong one and they're making errors here, you might need to take it a step back and go back to just that exposure that we were talking about at the early emergent phase, where we just talk about the b, 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 and really expose them to that a little bit more before moving on. And I would want to see a student doing multiple letters, maybe from a choice of multiple words, before I would move on to the next phase. Now, once we have all of these skills, we're going to move on to the next phase. Okay, so now we are in the transitional phase. The first one here says producing rhyme. For an AAC user, that can be a little bit tricky, but hopefully at this point, they know what a rhyme is. So what producing a rhyme looks like, I'm going to go back to my rhyming book. I would just take all of these off and say goat in a, what rhymes with goat? And see if they can go into their talker and find a word that rhymes with goat. Some students might not have the vocabulary that's in this book to be able to do this task. So what you'll want to make sure of before you jump into producing a rhyme is making sure that they know where to find these words in the talker. So one thing you'll want to do before you get to producing rhyme is make sure that we can find goat and boat in the talker, and make sure we can find rat and hat in the talker. So knowing that this level of rhyme is coming up, I would make sure that all of these rhyming words are, common enough words that they would be in the talker. So we're starting to get into phonemic awareness now. And we're going to be identifying initial consonant sounds. This is going to get a little bit tricky because our students aren't necessarily producing initial sounds or final sounds. If your student is able to, what we could ask them to do is tell me, what sound does Mario start with? We could also, if they're not able to produce those sounds or not able to produce them correctly so that you know whether or not they have that skill, is it's not perfect, but we can use the phonics keyboard. So you go from groups into phonics. This isn't ideal, but it does give you the sound. B. And I say it's not ideal because it is encroaching into phonics. For this transitional stage, what we are looking for is the ability to identify initial consonant sounds. Most assessments, including the snapshot assessment, they do assume that a student can speak. And so that's what I'm seeing here, that they've assumed that a student can speak. If your student can produce these speech sounds accurately enough that you can make some judgments there, please do go ahead and use their spoken sounds. But sometimes that's not going to be possible. So I'm going back to our alliteration book. And up until now, we've been talking about how the words start with different sounds, right? So at this point, they should be familiar with starts with. And so we're going to change the format to this. I just added some Velcro to the back of my book. So what I'm going to ask is, we have bear, sock, and lunch. What starts with the same letter as bus? And see if the student can identify the correct one. Now, the other skill here that we've identified is identifying final consonant sounds. You may need to go back and do all the same work that we've done with initial consonant sounds, starting with just exposing to the alliteration book, and then doing some sorting type activities, and then ending with this type of skill. So we have bed, soup, sad, sock. What ends with the same sound as bed? And so that is the transitional phonemic awareness skill. We're also going to be segmenting words into sounds. In terms of segmenting and the task that you're asking students to do, because our students are AAC users and speech production is not possible or difficult, what we're going to want to do is do some sort of matching type activity. And so I think that phonemic awareness and segmenting look very similar at this point, and I'm going to say that's okay. In order to segment words into sounds, we could do this type of task again, but with middle letters as well, or onset rhyme and that kind of thing. At the transitional stage, we're also looking at blending. We're going to want to blend from syllables into words. We're also going to want to blend from onset rhyme into words and blending from sounds into words. And I would go in that order. So we're going to start with syllables. So this doesn't work with single syllable words, obviously, but I have my handy dandy 2-syllable deck here. If I give 2 options and I say, show me pizza, can they show me? Donut. Okay. And then I would work on blending onset rhyme into words. We could start here with single syllable words. So ode. Remember here that onset rhyme is everything from the vowel forward. So ode is the rhyme here, and t is the onset. So I would give t ode, p each. You could start with single syllables and work your way up to longer and longer words. We're also going to work on blending sounds into words. Just to go back to our Mario vocabulary, this would be t o d p e ch. Okay. As you work on this with your students, you may find the need to scaffold to provide some additional cueing to help them be successful. You can sort of make those gaps shorter, but I wouldn't start to introduce phonics into this, especially a speaking keyboard of some sort, because then you're working on a separate skill. The idea here is to be able to manipulate all those sounds into words, and that's phonological awareness. We'll get to phonics separately, but for a phonological awareness skill, it's really important that that's happening inside the student's head. The next phase is beginning conventional. And at this point, we're talking about phonemic awareness, and we're adding sounds, deleting sounds, and substituting sounds. I'm not going to go into this at this point because I believe that there's some conventional learning resources available in this area. And so I'm going to look to the school teams to provide support around that. But if at some point we would like me to add another video around this, then I can totally do that. Just let me know. I hope this video has been helpful. Just to review sort of the things I have in my kit beside me here, I have a rhythm book, but again, you can substitute some sort of percussive instruments, music in general. Those are all really great for working on rhythm. I have a rhyming book, an alliteration book, 2-syllable words, pizza, 3-syllable words, ambulance, 1-syllable words like toad, some high interest vocabulary. Anything I can upload, I've uploaded for you into our team so you can access that easily. Thank you very much.